So I guess we need to talk about we got to get educated on technological intelligence, which goodness gracious, my head is spinning. Anyway, so it is as it is. So we're just gonna go with that. When it comes to emotional intelligence, we've identified several different levels of that, right? So here I put together an image that is going to help with understanding different layers and levels of emotional intelligence, right? So when it comes to social awareness, we're going to touch up a little bit. We're going to continue to talk about self-awareness and self-management, and I want to touch up a little bit on social awareness as it comes to empathy. Empathy is understood differently from in different areas of life. Empathy, we have the ability to have empathy because our mirror neurons. So the more mirror neurons our brains deploys, the more empathy we will be able to have. Now, mirror neurons were developed by scientists many years ago when playing with monkeys. And they found out that the monkeys, they were more empathetic. They would share their bananas, they would share their food. They had a large deployment of mirror neurons. But the thing of the mirror neurons are not the same as other neurotransmitters, because the mirror neurons, you develop more mirror neurons by developing your emotional intelligence. And intelligence has to do with knowledge, has to do with knowing what, how, when, and so on. But when it comes to emotional intelligence versus intellectual intelligence, EQ versus IQ, emotional intelligence is not something that is taught in school. It's not something that we are measured as children or young adults going to school. But it is something that we are measured when we are hired for a job, and there is something that we are measured when in a relationship. So the reason we get along or don't get along with people has something to do with the emotional intelligence. It's not just your personality. So your personality plays a role, which your personality will always adjust. It will complete, it will develop, it will evolve more with the more emotional intelligence you have. Your personality will follow with that. And of course, your physical body, your biological, has a lot to do with relationship and work and at home and personal relationship and so on. But social awareness, the extent to which people understand social awareness in the past few years is pretty much social media. And that is sad. It's sad. The social awareness is not limited to social media, right? And when it comes to empathy, a lot of people misunderstand the definition of empathy, and that is empathy and sympathy. Yeah. And a lot of people have an understanding that empathy means to feel what the other person is feeling, right? Especially if you go in the spiritual circles and higher consciousness circles, they would define empathy as feeling what the other person is feeling. But actually, that is sympathy. Sympathy, the brain goes into a sympathetic resonance with the people in front of you, and then you begin to feel their stuff, right? So it's good to keep in mind that empathy and sympathy are different. And empathy takes other people's feeling into thoughtful consideration. Through empathy, when you are empathetic, you will be very respectful towards the other and very thoughtful of what the other is going through. Now, are you going to step on your feet or not? Are you going to shut them down and not let them talk? Or you know, are you going to yell at them? Are you going to ignore them? Things like that. So it requires respect and thoughtfulness, right? And a certain amount of patience for different cultures, like Latin cultures or Eastern European cultures that I'm familiar with. But Daniel Goleman explains that our ability actually comes from these neurons that I talk about, the mirror neurons, that it's connected to the amygdala. And I've been talking about the amygdala for the past couple of months, have I not? The amygdala, the small little, it's the size of a not even a penny. It's so important. And then also, Daniel Goleman teaches us that you can read emotional intelligence on someone's face, their voice, and you can help direct them, on how to speak. But then when it comes to this, I'm just learning that there's so many neurological disorders that affect the strength of the muscles on people's faces. So they might have or age. It's just going to show up with a droopy face, that it might give you an impression that someone is not happy, when quite the opposite. It's happening. So keeping in mind that amygdala is extremely important, and amygdala responds to strong emotions, and strong emotions somehow we perceive strong fear to be a stronger emotion than happiness to be a stronger emotion, which is it isn't. So we want to. I think I might have settled something here with the echo. And we want to nurture our amygdala, if we can say it like this, with positive emotion, with happiness and laughter, and even being amazed or something that's very, very funny, and not watch as much TV that has a lot of anxiety to it, because this is going to affect our amygdala, right? And definitely keep in mind that empathy, it's not sympathy. So when we are feeling other people's stuff, we are actually in sympathetic resonance and not in empathetic resonance. When in empathy, someone might perceive that the other person might be a bit distant or not, but in fact, when someone is empathetic towards you, they will be there to help you. They will be there to assist you, right? So, anything you want to add to this, Friendin?
No, that sounds good. The difference between empathy and sympathy.
All right. And so if we're happy with that, then I guess we can continue to talk about self-management, the emotional self-control. And again, I cannot stress enough the amygdala part of the brain, that's how the purpose of the amygdala is to keep you safe. And if, for example, and some people that are extremely angry and commit a lot of crime, they might have a different emotional arousal, and their amygdala is affected as such, that triggers them to act with violence. So, and then I remember I was at a presentation with a neuroendocrinologist, and it was many, many years ago, and I figured, well, take away the amygdala. And I said, well, no, you don't want to take the amygdala, because you take away the amygdala, then you're going to take away someone's capacity for self-defense. So anger would play a role in here, because anger will trigger the amygdala. But anger, it's not the bad guy. The bad guy is self-control, it's down-regulating, it's thoughtfulness, it's respect, it's emotional intelligence. You know, this is what we want to pay attention, because we need anger to be capable to defend our life in a case of bad situation. And you never know when a bad situation arises, right? But what's happening lately, we are so overwhelmed, so we are not necessarily physically threatened, like, you know, the war that's going on in Europe and Middle East, right? So right here in the US of A, we're not necessarily physically threatened for our amygdala to be triggered. Just knowing that, because we're so overwhelmed by a lot of things to do. I mean, we have to do so many things. There's no more time to rest. There's no more time to take a breath. So it's good to remember that in spite of being so overwhelmed by all the events and everything we need to do, we can still make a point to remember to self-regulate and down-regulate. Because we do have the capacity to manage our thoughts and manage our feelings. And of course, there's going to be days where we're going to do a better job, and days when we're going to do not so good job at it. But I'm not concerned with that. I don't think anybody's concerned with that. I mean, we should rather be concerned with our attention on managing those emotions the best we can, because we can control our response. We cannot control other people's response. And understanding that when we are overwhelmed with those feelings of frustration, that has something to do with the amygdala. And by knowing that purposely engaging in laughter and happiness and positive emotions purposefully, that will trigger the amygdala to not have a negative emotional response. So we can always choose fake laughter. The amygdala is not going to know that the laughter is fake. As long as you laugh, it's going to trigger your amygdala properly, and then the level of frustration it's going to go down and down. And most people have difficulties with this by saying, "Oh, that's weird. I'm not going to do it because it's weird." Well, maybe it is something you're not used to doing, but who's going to see you? You take a moment in a quiet space and go ahead and have some fake laughter, and then you have fake laughter. Eventually, then you're gonna have unfake laughter as well. So let's just laugh. When things are hard, we can definitely laugh. And my internet connection here is just broke down. So let me see what I need to click on. All right, so my internet connection is definitely not a good connection. It keeps kicking me out, and although I keep changing devices and I get stronger, but it appears that this is a popular time, and it just drops me off. So how did you do on that? Did you take over, Randy?
Yeah, no, it kicks me off too. So I just jumped back on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the meeting was ended. I don't think we're live on Facebook anymore, though.
Were you able to see if we were live on Facebook?
I didn't check it and see, but it said we were.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me try this thing now. Go on YouTube. Okay, so I guess I have to click on. Hang on, Randy. Wait. I'm going live on this side and I think this one is still going. I'm not sure. Is it?
I'm going.
Okay, so it's as good as it can go. All right. So yesterday, me and you had a really good conversation about people not being aware of what's right and wrong. The small town in a smaller town in U.S. of A. did not know what that had no clue of the history between Nazis and the Jews. So, do you care to tell us this story again?
Well,
That friend of yours that lived in a small town. That it's quite an interesting story. That friend of yours.
About the newspaper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a school newspaper that they had, and the editor, such a big believer in free speech, thought that it was really, really cool to, and this editor didn't know a single Jewish person. Grew up in the deep South, where there are lots of Jewish people, but they were pretty segregated, and didn't, got a visit one day from this guy, and he said, I'm a Nazi, and Hitler's birthday is coming up. It's in April, I think, actually. I don't remember. Anyway, his birthday was coming up, and I want to put it in the newspaper. And, back in this time, it was free speech, and, oh, yeah, that was exciting, free speech. And so they stupidly agreed and patted themselves on the back about, oh, we're so First Amendment, and this is just us. We're living the First Amendment because we have free speech, and we allow anything and everything short of whatever. And so there in the weekly newspaper had celebrating happy birthday to Hitler.
See, that's
we were all patting each other on the back like, wow, we are the First Amendment. We're going to get the editor of the New York Times is going to call us and go, wow, you guys are so courageous. And within about 10 minutes of it happening, there was a knock on their door, and they got their senior advisor came in and said, the chancellor wants to talk to all of us. And surprise, 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 it had offended many, 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 many people.
Yes.
And a lesson was learned.
Go on.
That was it. It was a apology was issued and a lesson was learned.
Yes. So this is, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that someone would not know the history of Hitler and Jews.
Yeah, Hitler.
Yeah. So
yeah,
because they didn't know that emotional intelligence, the best they knew, the best they had emotional storage of on freedom of speech. Right? Because a lot of countries don't have freedom of speech. America prides itself with freedom of speech.
Yeah, and this was everyone on the staff of this thing. They were all very excited, and the editor had his fought in Vietnam, and he was a Vietnam vet. It was just all very innocent. But yeah, you're right. It was a lot of they had no clue on what they were doing, and you live and learn, but still, it was real. It was very weird.
Yes.
But yes, it was. This has been, way back in the '60s, but still.
Yes. So you're a professional. You're a licensed clinical social worker, and you've worked in the behavioral field for many years.
Yeah, long time.
What's the best advice that you can give someone when it comes to down-regulating emotion and emotional awareness? It has to do a lot with down-regulating emotion and what down-regulating actually means, because I'm sure a lot of people don't even know what down-regulating means.
Well, one of the things you said when you're talking about anger, or I mean fear. Excuse me, fear. Fear is an extremely, like you said, very powerful. There was a big story in the New York Times this week about one of the hosts on Fox News. Can't think of his name, but he's their biggest star right now. And they sat down and watched 1,100 hours of his show. And what they determined, they were trying to be objective. What they determined, the predominant theme was be afraid. That was the predominant thing, the politics aside, the predominant thing that he preached and he promoted was we have a lot to be fearful of and be very scared. Be scared of losing your identity, be scared of losing your freedom, be scared of losing your guns, be scared of your kids being turned into something else. Just fear. That was the predominant, and that approach has brought him the biggest audience, and the biggest audience in the television,
yes,
in the network, for the network.
Yes, and that is very sad. And that network happens to be a very conservative network, and that conservative network is largely indoctrinated by religion, and it takes away religion, the doctrine of the religion. It takes it to a whole different level. And actually, I just heard the story from a different person. What you just said about this person, we don't want to repeat their name, but what's happening there? There is a lot of manipulation that's been going on. Mass media has been manipulated for a very, very long time. But what people are not very familiar with is that we have a choice as to not respond to this manipulation or fear. So it's not just about love and fear. It's not just the amygdala pretty much responds to fear and it responds to love and it responds to laughter, right? It's not a dual, but it comes to polarity. So this person so polarized all of their messaging to instill fear. That is just it's a pitiful thing to do. But then why people are attracted to such polarizing and fear expanding, fear promoting messages, it has to do with the triangle. It's called victim, rescuer, prosecutor. So the way the people are manipulated is through making them believe that they are victims of circumstances. And then when someone believes that that's a victim, then they want to prosecute the perpetrator, right? So then here is this person that is aware of this mechanism and is just going to instill more fear to excite them, because to some extent fear is also excitement, right? And then look at the entertainment. How much pleasure do we get out of people killing other people in the movies? Yeah, that it's the violence is rewarded, and people don't even know that a reward is not made just with money. right? A reward is made with paying attention to, with being ignorant of how something works. And uneducated people, you could kind of understand that, but then educated people to hold on so strong to values, to this kind of values, that this is right and this is wrong, and these people should die and these people should leave, is not right. So this I don't want to go into too much detail into victim rescue prosecutor. I've been talking about with you outside of this live for a while. It's the ugliest thought feeling patterns that was ever instilled in consciousness. And if we are to think of consciousness right now for the purpose of this discussion, because consciousness does not have a definition and it takes a few hours to define consciousness, but for right now, if we are to think consciousness as similar to the air we breathe, consciousness, collective consciousness, there is something where all the thoughts go, and collective consciousness is something somewhere we think from. So then having, it's very pitiful. It's very pitiful for someone in this position to be in a position of reaching a lot of people instead of promoting kindness and compassion and gratitude and appreciation and respect. The respect for the first and foremost. He chooses to promote fear. It's pitiful, right? Because
it's pitiful, but very lucrative. It shows the power of fear. You know how powerful. And if we try to become aware of what fear is, and we start looking for it, all of a sudden, you'll hear it everywhere, all over media, social media, everywhere. Be afraid of something. Be afraid of something happening.
But that's polarized. Yes, it's polarized. Yeah. We are supposed to be afraid of things. We're not supposed to put our hands on hot plates. Don't put your hand on a fire. Don't walk in front of a driving car. We are supposed to have some sort of fear. Fear is a built-in mechanism in the physical body to protect you, to save your life, to keep you safe and secure. You're not supposed to trust everything. And this is where manipulation happens, because they say, fear this, but don't fear this. Be afraid of this, but here I am. Don't be afraid of me. So it plays with people's minds in a very ugly way. But what I want people to know is that everybody has a choice to not be entrained, to not be pulled into this triangle, because it's very hard to get out of this triangle. I mean, it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of classes and a lot of schooling to get out. I mean, coaching, not schooling, training, to get out of the victim, rescue, prosecutor triangle. And
the first way of avoiding it is to be aware of when it's happening.
Yeah.
Being aware of when somebody's trying to scare you,
mm-hmm.
or trying to make you fear, make you afraid.
Yeah. So
it happens a lot.
Yeah. So with uneducated people, I mean, people that don't have access to information, I'm talking about people that don't have access to information, you can kind of understand, or people that are just polarized, but no, and then, as we increase our emotional intelligence, we want to pay attention to what stimulates you. It's a story like this person that he puts out. This story is something like that stimulates you, that there's a sneeze. I was a sneeze. or is it possible for you to be stimulated by laughter, to be stimulated by respect, by kindness, by compassion, right? Because kindness is free, right? But if you look at it, fear, people pay money to listen to fear. People pay money to be entertained by fear, because to some extent, a lot of people are numb, right? And then those people that are numb, they take fear as excitement. It's like, oh, something that's happening in my life. No, that's not healthy. That's not healthy. And then there are other people that there's so many different layers of propagating and promoting fear, and even just going into criticism, constantly criticizing what's wrong. You're rewarding fear. You're rewarding what's wrong, right? So instead, you want to reward what's right. And oftentimes, kindness and respect might be boring, right? Because they might not be as exciting, right? But guess what? With kindness and respect, nobody goes to war with kindness and respect.
Yeah, and the big, yes, it can be boring with kindness and respect, because the interest that people have is in conflict. That's what drives literature, and what drives a lot of people's interest in things is conflict. So yeah, it's a jump to try to get past that.
Yeah.
To look on the other side of it.
Yeah. And it's sad. And my first advice to everybody that is just overwhelmed, and my first advice is to keep away from propagating fear, is to look at criticism. Be aware when you engage in criticism, or when you are attracted to criticism, and when you are on a side of criticism. And it doesn't mean we eliminate criticism out of your thinking and evaluating, because you need to have your inner critic. But from inner critic to constant criticism, it's quite a polarity, right? And we want to not be polarized, right? We want balance. This is what everybody it's after in life, balance, right? But in order to stay away from fear, look at criticism, because it doesn't mean that if you don't criticize, that you agree with the perpetrator. Absolutely not. You can, and then someone said that, well, if I don't say anything about it, then nothing will be done. Yes or no, because you can say something about it, but you can say it in a way in which is not criticized. Like you just presented this interesting aspect. You presented the aspect, and you didn't jump into criticizing this. So emotional intelligence is gonna come into play to help us become aware that this criticism is the first step into becoming aware, to stepping out of this triangle, right?
Becoming aware of when we're influenced by it,
Yes.
when it's impacting us, and what are we feeling and why.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, definitely.
And what are we doing to make that feeling happen? Not blaming somebody else for making us feel that way, but what is it that's making us? What side is it being triggered?
That's victimhood right here. Blaming someone, it's you're a victim. So here's the triangle of victim, rescuer, prosecutor. In a constant state of criticism, there's going to be blame. So you're going to be a prosecutor and a victim all at the same time, just within criticism, because you're going to blame someone, you're going to criticize them and blame them because you're a victim or somebody else is a victim, and then you are waiting for a prosecutor to come fix it. And this is how people are manipulated. This is how you hijack your emotions. This is how people and overall planet are manipulated. And then if you look at indigenous people don't have this in their consciousness, the victim, rescuer, prosecutor. They're very responsible, they're highly efficient, self-sufficient, and very responsible. Yeah. So my advice, the easiest and the quickest way to get to step out of this triangle is pay attention to who you're blaming, who you're criticizing, are you attracted to criticism, and then be aware that you're blaming something or someone. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to be upset over things. If you're dealing with chronic illness, for example, I mean, there's going to be days when you're going to say, I am tired of it. And of course you're going to be tired of it. And if it's, I hope not, if someone is in an abusive relationship, then of course they are the victim of the abusive relationship. And right now with the war going around, there's lots of victims fleeing that country, right? So in that aspect, in that context, of course, it's going to be a rescuer, that all of the refugees are going to be rescued as to provide them with food and shelter, because that's a basic need, right? And then, of course, when someone is aware that somebody else is being abused in a relationship, might step in and help. Or the victim might just go and ask for help. It's just this many situations. We're not going to cover all of them right here in this discussion. But the idea is that if victim, rescuer, prosecutor exist outside of people's identity. So this is how this person got so popular. We're not going to say his name, we're going to mention his net worth. This is how he got so popular and attracted everybody, because he worked, he promoted the fear, and then this reached in people's hearts and their identity, because people identified with the religion that he was promoting and he's affiliated with. And then said religion, that religion says that if you do this, that's going to happen, and if you do this, then that's going to happen. So the dogma of the religion is not bad, right? But the dogmatic part of the religion, it keeps people entrained in fear, right? Well, that's not healthy either. So now nobody says don't go to church anymore, because that's not the answer, right? The answer is have emotional intelligence and recognize that these things, you don't want to be controlled nor by fear, nor by victimhood, and nor by constantly rescuing people either, right? Because there's a lot of the other behavior of, because the moment you're gonna criticize and blame someone, then you're just gonna jump into rescuing and doing something when somebody didn't even ask you to. You become a meddler. You stick your nose into somebody else's business. So that's the rescuer aspect of this triangle that you do want to stay away from. That's the hardest to do.
Yeah, it's like pain. There's different types of pain. There's the real pain that if I cut myself while I'm cooking, that hurts. It's real pain. But there's also mental and emotional pain.
Yes.
And there's victimhood, and then there's real victimhood. The people who are killed in a tsunami, they're really victims.
Yes.
They're not. It's not a mental game they're playing. It's not a mental attitude. That's really happens. The people in Syria and they're true victims, and in Ukraine. So there's the real victim, and then there's the mental victim. And the mental victim is more insidious. It's harder to address because it sometimes is a part of who we see as our identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it goes in.
And it could. Oh, I'm sorry, Carmen. I was just going to say, which you well know. I mean, and in fact, I would ask you this. That's one thing that hypnosis can help with, because it can address those core identity patterns patterns that cause that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's just this, the hypnosis goes to the heart of the problems really quick, and it works to solve the problems. It's not looking just to identify the problems and then put you into some sort of category. I mean, you're a licensed psychotherapist and you're a certified hypnotherapist too, and you know the difference between these two. So
Right.
psychotherapy was developed out of hypnosis. So hypnosis goes to the root of the problem and have you identify those blockages, the parts within you that are keeping you stuck.
Right.
The subconscious, of course, the subconscious that keep you stuck into this behavior of victim, rescue, prosecutor that is causing you unhappiness, that is causing you ill.
Right, which is different than being a real victim.
Correct. But see, this is what the manipulation is, because in real life, the victims exist in a physical aspect. Victim of an act of God. It's tsunami. You're a victim of a tsunami. You're a victim of a hurricane. You're a victim of war. You're a victim of gun violence. You're a victim of physical violence and all that, right? But to begin to identify with that, because you like something or you don't like something, it's gonna mess. It's really gonna mess with your health. And right now, what do you think is going on right now that over the social media? Who identifies with abortion being legal or not? Well, I have a lot of opinions on that, and opinions are valid, but how much is my opinion, my stand on that is going to count? How much weight is it going to have over the final decision made if I just put a post on Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media? It's not gonna have any weight, right? As opposed to people that are over there peacefully railing on it and saying, no, this is not right, we're not standing for it, they have a bigger impact on that. But what's me putting a post on social media, I agree with this and I disagree with that. And I'm seeing, I'm seeing some educated people. I'm seeing some people educated in the field of psychology saying their phrasing, and neurolanguage is one of my specialty, right? So they're phrasing it in such a political template. Just like a politician would say, well, I don't agree or disagree with that. I agree and disagree with this fact and this fact and this fact. It's just so typical political. And you kind of, emotional intelligence has a lot to do with behavior, and it kind of you would expect that professional in the field of psychology would be aware of those things, but they're not. So then we go back to what I started. Emotional intelligence is not taught in school. Emotional intelligence and psychology, it's not the same thing. Psychology, it's a whole industry that has so many different areas. But emotional intelligence, you begin to learn emotional intelligence at home. It ended again. In Romania, we define emotional intelligence as we call it the first 7 years from growing up at home. So this got kicked out, so let me start it again. Okay, I need to do more clicks. So let me figure out what I need to click on this. Just a second. It's just a second here. I need to click on save. So yeah, ce șaptea în casă. In Romanian, we would call it ce șaptea în casă. That has a lot to do with emotional intelligence. That's emotional intelligence. And and also being able to not get aggravated with technology like I am in the midst of getting aggravated with technology right now. Things on what it says that do click here and then this is gonna happen, and it's not happening. So let me try this one more time. It just doesn't like something. Because it's ridiculous on how many things you have to click on something to get something done. So I will get Randy over here on the phone and continue the conversation like that, because this is just going to be a bit simpler.
You can't get on?
Yeah, well, I got kicked out again. So let's. I'm just gonna have you on the phone, and we're just gonna continue going over here on. And here someone says we have some people participating on Facebook, so I'm just gonna have you here on a phone. And here someone says that religion leaders don't accept hypnosis practice because they believe it's evil. Well, that's fine. Then I guess they're not gonna help themselves to get rid of blockages that they have. So it's
what's so interesting is so many ministers put their congregation, and my dad was a minister, they put their congregation in a trance. I mean, they have hypnosis, it's just not called that. When they're feeling the spirit and having all the emotions that are involved, a lot of times they're in a trance, they're in a religious trance. So it's not, it's just interesting because they a lot of them think hypnosis is the devil's work, but they're in a trance when they're hearing the minister.
You see, there you go. You bring a good point because yes, because what the minister is doing, he's making a lot of hypnotic suggestion, and people don't know what hypnotic suggestions are. And then people are going to believe them. So here is a hypnotherapist that is highly trained, that knows how to work with people's, that knows they know how to work with people's emotions and their hearts. I mean, it's people's hearts that you're very careful of the words you use and how you guide them so to avoid trauma. And but then again, manipulating through fear, because a lot of religions, and not all of them, a lot of religions they teach you fear. If you do this, you go to hell. If you do this, you go to heaven, or whatever. You incarnate, don't incarnate, and whatever their what's the word? The tip of the tongue. I have a tip of the tongue phenomena now. What's the word?
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not finding a word that tip of the tongue phenomenon. The word is there, but it's yeah. Right. So here's where I say that a lot of Romanians avoid to be treated from depression, and it's true they do, because I'm from Romania and I grew up in Romania and moved over here, and I've talked with you, Randy. How many times have I talked about this? The cultural clash, and the emotional intelligence layers, availability and layers that it's available to different countries it's quite fascinating. Like, was it yesterday we were talking about Eastern Europe, Romania, because I'm going to talk about my country, not everybody else's country. I don't want to offend other people's countries. But Romania, for example, it's a very old country, and it's full of tradition. And it's got so... it's so rooted in tradition, and forget religion, just look at the tradition. In tradition says that we do this and this is how we do it. We're not going to do it any other different way, right? And then this is what is taught. I mean, you continue to teach your children and your children's children, and so on and so on. Generation after generation learns how to cook, how to dance, how to do certain things. And then because that culture it's not exposed to options, they don't even know options are available. And it's not necessarily dropping tradition, because we don't want to drop tradition, because tradition is healthy, right? Good tradition is healthy. But you can always do things a little bit different. How a little bit different? In a way that's good for you and that's good for others at the same time. You're not going to hurt yourself, you're not going to hurt others, and you're not going to disrespect tradition. But instead of large quantity, maybe you can do small quantities and still respect a tradition and adapt to the current society that you live in. I mean, are you gonna continue to respect tradition and not use your smartphone nowadays? I don't think so.
Yeah, and it's not just Romanians that are resistant to like getting treatment for depression. I mean, it's still got a stigma in this country. So it's not just unenlightened Eastern European people who can't come into the 20th century or the 21st century. I mean, a lot of people, it's still got a stigma here.
That's true.
Just are very, very. It's lessening, but still, it's very stigmatizing, and there's just a whole different discussion, but it probably. I mean, there's some reason to be stigmatized because it can be. People can look down on it. It's just it's a very complex thing. So, yeah.
Yes, but here's the stigma again comes. I think the root of the stigma again, it goes into the triangle, the victim, rescuer, prosecutor triangle, which again, it's we ought to step out of it. And I'm seeing more and more people stepping out of that victim, rescuer, prosecutor triangle, I'm so happy to see that. They're not the word that they're doing it, but I'm seeing that happening. And
it is. It happens more and more, and as people become more and more enlightened, and exactly, exactly.
Yes.
So, and it's a good thing to see.
So what enlightened means, it means educated. You become more knowledgeable. So being education is not limited to school and organized education. A lot of people misunderstand education as being limited to just the school as to organized education, to school, grammar school, high school, college, university, doctorate, postdoctorate, and things like that. Because we have to continue to keep on educating ourselves with the demands of life, with what requires to be healthy. We're exposed to so much toxicity nowadays. All of the industry is just like. I just read a really cool article today on. I'm deviating, but there's a really cool article that technology is being developed to extract carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, to compress it. To air extract it from air. It compresses it and it stores it into near rocks, which eventually in about 20 years or so, don't hold me on this number because I'm not, that carbon monoxide, CO2, it's going to become a rock. That's fascinating. I mean, it's completely fascinating if you ask me. But then if you think about it, a diamond is made, the main component of a diamond is what? Isn't it carbon?
Yeah, I think so.
I
think so, yeah.
So we're gonna be even richer. We extract the carbon from the atmosphere and we're gonna turn it into diamonds within a few years. So yay for that.
One of the things that I think a lot of therapists, I think they would agree on this, because therapists don't agree on a lot of things, believe it or not. But I think one thing people would agree on, the thing that I experienced, was exactly what you've been talking about tonight, is being aware of what's going on internally, aware of what's going on inside of us. And when I was doing psychotherapy full time, it would be a major victory for a client to just be aware of what was triggering them some, aware of what was going on. That's why I love hypnosis so much, because it makes that happen very quickly.
Yes,
but
emotional intelligence. Your emotional intelligence increases because that's self-awareness. Self-awareness is at the bottom of the pyramid for emotional intelligence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I was noticing that. So anyway, interesting.
Because once you are aware of what triggers that, then you can do something about it.
Yeah, you're self-aware. Exactly. Right. Right. You can do something about it rather than feel like you're a victim, like you're saying.
So now that we are aware of the victim, rescuer, prosecutor as the ugliest thought feeling pattern ever introduced in the collective consciousness, we can begin to take a step back from being the criticizer, from being a victim, from behaving as such. And behaving as such doesn't mean just saying something or just, it means thinking something. So victimhood exists.
Being okay in that, being okay with that position.
Yes, and of course there's going to be aspects of life that we're not gonna like, but it doesn't mean that we are victims of every circumstance, because we're not. The more we begin to understand that we have choices, more choices than we could ever think about, then the healthier our life becomes. Yeah. Oh, someone here, Vera, said that today we have to be able to understand the power of science, theology, and understand the power of, since theology, science probably, or this mistype, and learn to cope with social life of today. Well, yes, because it's not, religion is good, and we're not gonna get rid of God, because we don't want that. We want to love God and have God in our life, and have God-loving people in our life. Is the dogma that we want to move away from. Because in the way to look at it is, how many years ago was the earth discovered to be round and actually to not be flat?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So the same concept, you take the same concept, apply in religion, and continue to go to church because your church and you love the church, or don't go to church if you had enough of it.
Or synagogue or temple.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. Yes. Or a place of religion. Let's just call it a place
of religion, right?
Yeah. So you are free to do that. And if somebody is not gonna like it, are you hurting somebody that if you don't go? Or are you hurting someone that if you go to that place of religion? So identifying, the religion, it's for the most part, it's putting people together and giving them a sense of community, of belonging, and that's a wonderful thing to do. But let's stay away from the polarity of that. Oh, you got to go to hell if this, then that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And some good points. Those are comments off of Facebook.
Yeah, I had a comment on Facebook. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Are you able to access the Facebook and see the comments that are being made? Go under my profile. I don't think it's, for some reason it doesn't let me. It didn't let me do a live on the page. So go under my profile, and then you're going to be able to see the live and see the comments over there, and you can put in the comments too, and you can even click a like on that comment and have more people interact if they want
That's a
to.
good point. Yeah, that's a good thing. Let me see if I can pull that up. Yeah.
So
Because those points are good.
yeah, because religion is something that affects our identity. And religion is very important to us. But I think that once we understand that religion can be polarizing, if we take if we consciously choose to stay away from polarity and keep what's good, then we're good. Then we are increasing emotional intelligence. I had no intention of talking about religion today, but I guess we just got there somehow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I mean, it's hard to avoid when you're talking about trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong, and trying to figure out what's. And you know, the person who made that comment's got a good point. It's a lot of people, religious people, a lot of people in different things see hypnosis as evil, and that's a legitimate thing. There are a lot of people that see psychotherapy is an evil thing. You know, came from Sigmund Freud, who was an atheist, so it's got to be evil.
Yes, because
So, yeah.
because in the polarity aspect of the religion, not all the aspect, but when religion becomes polarized, it becomes polarized because it wants to control you. So then if you go and work on your subconscious, where all your boo-boos are sitting in your subconscious, then those that are invested in controlling you, they don't want you to go work on your boo-boos, to take your boo-boos out of your subconscious.
Right.
All of your
Exactly.
blockages, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, one of the things that one of my teachers, he did, one of my therapy teachers, he wrote a book about cults, and one of the things that cults have in common is they isolate the people in it. They isolate the people in it, and they keep them away from other parts of society. And you know, when people study cults, that's one of the patterns that happens, and they keep them away, and they keep them. They preach exactly what you're saying. There's a polarity. We know the truth, and no one else does. So, anyway,
that is again that is very, very sad. So as long as truth is relative. If we learned anything from Albert Einstein, anything, we learn that truth is relative because it's a matter of perspective. What are you looking at, and from what perspective you're looking at? So to just blindly go in there and believe someone that is like, this is the truth and this is the way to whatever you gotta go. And what we are teaching in Erickson and hypnosis, and I'm not talking about other hypnosis, but in Erickson and hypnosis, what we are teaching everybody is in a way that is good for you, that doesn't hurt somebody else.
And I don't. I think people should be very, for anybody, not religion, but anything, anybody that says this is the truth. This is the absolute truth. I think to be a little bit not dubious, but just a little careful of accepting it, because there are very few things in the world that are just absolute truths. I mean, I guess it's a truth that the sun will rise tomorrow.
There are universal truths. Yes, there are.
Right.
But other than that.
But you know, when people say, and this is not, I've gotten all my vaccines, get my boosters, and very much pro-vaccine and all this. But one of the things I think that turned a lot of people off about it is that, oh, well, this is science, and science is the truth. And science isn't always the truth. It wasn't that long ago that science believed that we should be bleeding our diseases out of our body. So it's just something I just think it's to be aware of. Like you said, it's emotional intelligence. Just to be aware if somebody's trying to convince me of something or make me feel a certain way, what's going on about it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I said a whole lot. I don't know if I said anything.
No. You did because you brought up another good point about science, and what science measures. The role of science is to measure things, and science intends to explain existence, and goes about understanding how matter and anything that's the physical physics, chemistries, mechanics, quantums, all of that. It goes about measuring that and trying to understand how it works. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing to have. But there is no the answer.
Yeah. Right.
Again, answer.
Certain people believe, very strongly about certain religions, but yes, there's there's no. It's just to be aware. If somebody's saying, "Oh, I know the truth," and everyone else doesn't. Jesus himself asked Pontius Pilate, "What is truth?"
There you go. So yeah, let's go.
So if Jesus can ask it, we can.
Yes. So
that's true.
Yeah. No, it's definitely. So you're right. Just take that portion of the Bible and take it to all of the preacher. But then they're gonna mess with your head and turn you around and say, no, this is the way and this is the way. And again, I don't know how we arrived. Well, we arrived to this because of comments over here. We were talking about hypnosis, and then people were talking about religion. Emotional intelligence is not limited to religion, but religion is something that affects our identity and affects that which is dear to us, and it alters, it increases or diminishes our hope, and that's very important. And hope is always very important to people. But as long as we are aware that there are multiple ways to be right, and there are multiple solutions, oftentimes 99% there are multiple solutions to the same problem. Then make your choice, elevate your intelligence, because emotional intelligence will prevail intellectual intelligence at any time. And even though those people with high IQ, intellectual quota, might be highly successful out there, a lot of them are very sad, very lonely, and have a broken heart. So I happen to have a high IQ and a high EQ. And if you are to ask me which I would rather have, I will always vote for the high EQ, high emotional intelligence.
Right.
Okay, and here's Daniela said, thank you very much, guys. This was the best company I had between my appointments. I love listening to some good info and go. Well, you are welcome. Yes. You are welcome. Okay, so you are welcome. Very, very welcome. Yes. So what else do we want to go with? It's 8.
Well, we've covered the whole bound of religion and psychology and theology and morality and the existence of man. So I think we've covered a fair amount, huh?
Yes, we did. And okay, Vieira says over here, why religion leaders advise member not to take vaccine? Oh, you want to take this on, Randy?
Well, not all religious leaders do.
Okay.
I mean, some do.
Okay, but so let's have you answer this.
It's a very good question. I'm not sure if I know the answer. I think not all of them do. I mean, there are some that are very pro-vaccine. There are some that just. I live in the Deep South, and one of the most prominent ministers here, the evangelical Christian, he was very, very much anti-vaccine. Why? I don't have a clue. I really don't. It never made a bit of sense to me.
Yes, and that's not. I don't think that's not. It doesn't have a religion aspect to it. I think it's a
Yeah,
personal.
I
I think
don't.
it's a personal preference that this religion's leader, they have a personal preference, which they are free to choose the way they want to choose. Nobody's forcing them, right? But then don't impose the vaccine are such a sensitive subject because it has to do with your physical health and the physical health of those around you. It's not just one person involved. If somebody
That's
has
true.
cancer is not contagious, okay? But viruses are contagious. So if a religious leader has a personal opinion of being against the vaccine, I'm not in agreement of them telling other people what to do the vaccine or not to do the vaccine. That is
Well,
sad.
and what's frustrating is that there'll be, it's not just religious leaders, there'll be any society leaders say, oh, we're going, the
Yeah.
government can't tell us what to do. That's, we can't let the government dictate what to put in our bodies. We can't let the government do anything about with our bodies. It's our bodies. Well, who is, now we're in the middle of an abortion debate. Well, that's the government telling women what to do with their bodies. So
Well,
I know that's a very controversial thing, but it's there's an inherent I don't get. I don't. Somebody's pro-life. They want the government to be involved in some parts of people's bodies, but not the others. So I don't understand. I think you're right. It doesn't have anything to do with religion. It's a bizarre thing, and you're right. Christianity especially is very community oriented, so it's very weird for a Christian pastor. Now, maybe other ones are too. I don't mean the others aren't, because I'm just familiar with Christianity. It's something I've ever familiar with, but
yeah.
it does have a community point, and it's just bizarre for Christian leaders to, just like you said, to advocate something that would be harmful to the community. And I don't get it, and I respect it. They do what they want to do, but I don't get it. So. But and other religions may too. Like I say, I'm just not real familiar with the other
Yeah.
other types of religions.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's a good point.
Yes. It is. It is a very good point. All right. So we're gonna check out for tonight, and we're gonna come back next. Wednesday, and hopefully I'm not gonna get kicked off the internet. Last time I got kicked off out of my desktop, and now I got kicked off out of my laptop. So today I moved to my laptop, and now on a desktop. So it's a lot of pieces moving here, but
It's the devil trying to keep you not from talking.
yeah, right. Yeah, right. All right. Well, you are very, very welcome. Somebody says thank you and very, very welcome. And I have to click on something to stop it. And that's it. We're gonna come back next Wednesday.
Yeah, and these comments are wonderful. I was just looking at the website. The Facebook. There's very interesting comments. Excellent.
Yes.
There's such good questions. I wish I was smart enough to answer them, but there's such good questions.
Randy, you are smart. What are you talking about? You're one of the smartest people I know. Your
Clarity will
humbleness.
get you nowhere.
No. You're one of the smartest people I know, because being smart means more than having a diploma and a degree. And you are emotionally intelligent. You have a heart.
Thank
You have a heart, and you care.
You too.
Yes. All right, everybody. So we're gonna stop this live for right now. If I figure out what to click on. All right, I found the button, and we will see you next Wednesday. And go ahead and send me your questions, and we will address your questions, because some of them were really, really good questions today. All right. So thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.